where Keith is. You wait for mine?
Oh, maybe that's him.
Hang out for a second. I just heard the elevator. Good morning. For so many things. I said I asked you for so many things.
Yeah, I didn't get the book.
What is the Wi-Fi password?
What's that?
What's the Wi-Fi password?
I don't know. It's all on the Wi-Fi.
There's a guest Wi-Fi.
Oh, I wish.
Hey, Jim, do you know the Wi-Fi password for the guest?
I've got it.
Okay.
When I started, I was on the Wi-Fi, and then one day it was no longer.
PTCO guest, which is, I'm assuming. All right, Sharon, this has a very special place in my heart for you today. I just wanted you to.
I didn't bring a red pen.
I just wanted you to know.
Jen Elliott, great time. Reminiscing.
All right, ready? Good morning. Thank you for everybody that's out here today. We've got some people from the community out here. We have some council persons present this morning. We really appreciate it. We look forward to everybody being here. We, as far as roll call is concerned, all of our Main Street Committee is here this morning. Mark is representing Stephanie Stevenson in the Clean, Green, and Safe Committee. The only person currently unaccounted for is Keith Reed, so we will cover anything in the economic development category and economic vitality when we get to that committee report. So opening statements. I think what I would like to talk about, and the only really big thing that we've done recently that I need to bring up is our city's council meeting. So we were represented at the council meeting for the first time as a cohesive board that we have put together, and I think it went really well. I think it was difficult to find a way to present to the city and the council the way that we operate as a board and the differences that we have and, you know, the things that we're overcoming to make sure that we're all working together in the best way possible. And I think it was pretty successful. It really highlighted a lot of the good that we're doing and the good that we're still doing going forward. And the ways that we operate may not be traditional or conventional, but they are the way that we do it. And if it's working for all of us, then that's what we're going to do, because our common goal is Main Street and making that, you know, as best as it can be for the community. So moving on to the review and approval of the prior meeting's minutes. If you brought them, go ahead and pull them out. If you have not, I did email them over last night, so everybody should have a copy. I went through and made sure I watched again our last meeting, and these are from February. Our March meeting was canceled, so these will be the February 28th minutes. I went through and watched the entire live stream again to make sure that I was, you know, getting it with who said what and what we were doing and what we really highlighted as the important pieces. So if everybody has reviewed those,
I need that password to be able to see them.
here, I'll give you my copy while we're,
I have all my other documents.
yeah, just in
too,
case
and
while
I
we're,
need them.
while we're doing it.
Get that.
But yep, give everybody a chance to look that over, and if you've had a chance, does anybody have any discussions, changes?
L next to Stephanie Stevenson mean in.
I was trying to think of the best way just to make a late indicator. So I figured if somebody shows up after a meeting has started, simply for no better reason than to make sure that if there was something in the beginning that maybe they wouldn't have been privy to, that we make sure that we're not holding them accountable for something that they may or may not have been part of the discussion on.
Thanks.
But that seemed to be the most appropriate way to do it. Is this mine? Thank you.
I'm gonna ask to strike the completed 4/12/24 after the financials. I don't consider that closed yet.
So
For
that,
monthly discussion,
so can we,
or is it that the request was completed on
the
4/12?
request was completed, you got
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was just saying that that was something that our board had requested. And
Okay,
it doesn't mean that we can't request more or something specific.
I just want to make sure that.
Just that one.
That it was the request that was completed and not the action that was completed.
Yes. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, because they, that went along with the email that Jim sent out on April 12th with all of the different financial reports that they had access to.
Right.
So at this point, we have them, but we can discuss them again as we feel we need to.
When do you guys plan to talk about those?
To talk about what?
The financials that Jim dropped?
Down, we have a financial section down in here, so it'll come up down here further into the financial, or the Main Street Manager's report.
That would be my only comment, would be to change that to requested for 12 instead of completed, because then it clarifies.
Okay.
The action.
Well, Jim sent all those financials over on 4/12. So everything they had, they did send them over to us.
Well,
If we're,
I would note reviewing and competing.
so maybe, okay, let's do that. Is that okay, Sharon, if we just say that the review's not completed of them? Okay. So we'll just say review not completed by board yet, because I would hope you're gonna weigh in very largely on that one.
I'm kind of loyal.
Okay. Not completed.
No matter.
All right. And then Beth, I'm just gonna throw your initials next to that one, because you're gonna be an integral part of that one with us. All right. Any other, Sharon, was that the only one you
That was
had?
the one, yeah, that was the one.
Okay. Beth, is there anything else you would add other than the review? We'll put you in here for the review. Lauren?
Yeah.
Good. Mark, do you have anything else you think you want to add? Okay. So we have, all right, do I have a motion is to approve the minutes from the February 28th with changes under the financials that we're discussing under monthly discussions? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Nay? So approved minutes of February 28th, 2024. All right, so moving forward, now we're moving through to our review of the January, February, and March financials. I put them together as one line item on ours. I do have them broken down into three on mine. That way, if we have a problem with any of the three, we can break that out a little bit and separate it. So you should have, I emailed those over last night, what I had for you. Jim, you said this was these reports can be done differently. You had said if we liked the format of this.
Has gotten the detail from the Community Foundation for those months and taken time to put it all together in I guess, a consolidated format, much like you would have be able to reconcile a checking account statement every month. So if that format has is understandable, easy to read, has the detail that the board wants to see each month, we can stick with that. If there's something that you'd like to see different, Mish can look into, if there's a way to get that information reasonably through the foundation. And, this is a little bit of a learning curve as to, how best to get the information. But I thought those 3 months worth seemed like a reasonable format and level of detail for the board to be able to know what's going on and keep track of the finances. But again, if there are suggestions on adding more to it or presenting it a little bit differently, let us know.
Okay. So this is more like a register, like you said, more like a register style. So we can see we can see the things that we spent money on, we can see how much it was, and then we can, these are things that are usually typically pre-approved by the board. Beth, I'm gonna start with you. Is there anything that you see in there that you think would be better?
Fund balance noted on here. I noticed in some of the financials, it starts with the fund balance, the income is added, expenses deducted, and then you have your ending fund balance, which goes to next month. And that should always be on there.
On each one, okay. Mish, are we able to, with those reports, have it so that they can show us this register style?
Balance.
In addition to the balance, the income, and the expenses?
Balance, then income, then expenses.
Go back and look at the 2019 report. I know it's on there in 2020 and 2021. How they did the financials. I know maybe a different system, but my concern is we're relying totally on them. And we should be reconciling this every month to what we submitted, what we received back.
Is there a time that you and I can sit down together?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you and I set up the time before we leave here today?
Okay, that's fine.
I would, because it's one of the reasons that I was so excited when you agreed, is because you do have the controller background.
But that's my biggest concern. is
Yep.
You're not being reconciled, and you're relying on a third party. How do you know you put somebody that's actually happy? How do you know you put somebody else's $10 parking fee and pay it out of your fund?
Right, absolutely. Totally,
And $10 you may not pick up because
right, absolutely.
Piece that's missing for me is a budget and like a budget to actual. What are we, what did we project for the fiscal year of 23, 24? What was the amount that we started with? Where are the grants shown? Who did the grants come from? Who do we owe information back to? And to me, there's a lot of information still missing from this. And like Beth said, she has some examples of past financial reports that have done. I can provide examples from other boards' financial reporting, so we can take a look at what other boards do and show how things are done with other organizations to get some ideas of how this reporting should really be happening.
You sit on a couple of boards where they're doing that, right?
Yes. Oh, every board that I sit on does this.
Jay, can Sharon be in on that conversation with you and Beth so that,
I don't mind if Beth doesn't mind.
or can you get those?
Share that.
Well, I was gonna say those documents, can you get some of that stuff to Beth
Absolutely.
then, so that when she meets with Jay, those can, that piece isn't missing, because I like that piece too. My thoughts on that would be, I'd almost like to see us I want to keep everything as non-convoluted as possible. So if we have our financials, we can look at those every month with the income, expenses, and the end. And then we can also have a separate line item on our agenda each month for a budget comparison, to look at how we're doing as like a landmarker, to make sure that we're where we feel like we need to be throughout the month,
Right.
well, throughout each month.
Right, and that's really the reasoning for asking for back information as well, is to see where have we been, how have we been spending that money, what's been successful, what hasn't been, what should we not spend money on because it hasn't worked, how can we change direction? But without that historic information,
Yep.
I really have a hard time moving forward because I don't know where we've been.
Right.
I know what you mean. Excuse me. I know what you mean. To some degree, there are periods where the information doesn't exist. Like, I don't have for you any budgets that were pre my time, and in 2021, 2022, when there wasn't a board, excuse me. So I think that it'll be really helpful when I sit down with Beth to show what resources we do have and what we don't, and what format the Community Foundation provides and what it doesn't.
Start really sifting through the information that we do have versus
Yeah.
not have, and how we can use it.
But I think it's important to try and put together those historical records as best we can, because money did come in and money did go out. So we know that that happened.
Right, and those
Or it
things,
didn't, and we don't know that it didn't. That's the
Right.
kind of where I'm sitting is, I don't know what's happened.
Right.
I'm frankly shocked that there aren't records, even though there wasn't a board, because it shouldn't matter if we sit here or not. Financial records are still financial records, and there's a fiduciary responsibility to those grant holders that we should be making reports. There should be information somewhere. we just need to, I think there's some digging that has to get done, and we need to put effort into this to make that reporting happen.
Yeah, preserving,
because it's
well, and even,
critical.
yeah, we'll say preserving the historical piece of what this is, and not for the purpose of history, but because the knowledge is good.
The knowledge is
Yeah,
good,
the
but
knowledge
it's
is good.
also the fact that we've been doing something with that money. You know, the money's come in. We owe that to the people who have given it to us, to the taxpayers who have,
Yep.
who put their money into this program. There's a lot more than just me asking for it. It's a big,
It's a huge liability.
it is.
There's hardly any information concerning 23, and there was a board. They just hadn't been activated. It had been appointed, but nothing was ever done for about a year. There's very little 23 information. And why it's important to know is it not just because it's taxpayer dollars, but the people that are getting grants have to be protected as far as the disclosure, so that there's a process in place that the money is going to somebody for a particular project, and the public can understand that that is a legitimate, viable Main Street project. The fact that there wasn't anything communicated, like we know, some of us know, that there was an influx of money that got passed through from COVID relief that was separate from a regular Main Street contribution from the city or the state. Money got put out to businesses. One of those businesses was not on Main Street, and people got crazy about it because they didn't understand that that wasn't necessarily Main Street funds. That was COVID relief that was designed for a broader application. So people get bent out of shape.
After the meeting, I'll ask you to share with me what that is, because I don't know about that. But I don't want to highlight any
Well, it was in the
businesses.
newspaper, the paper that isn't getting printed right now.
Okay.
And it was a big push. And it's not a big deal that people don't understand, but when they ask the questions and nobody knows, and there's no record of it, you know, it does make people wonder,
Okay.
you know?
So we're pushing accountability. I'm trying to keep us really hard today on a 1-hour schedule, so I'm not gonna cut anybody short, but we're gonna say, so the accountability is the big part. Mark, I feel like that we're all agreeing on, that we need to make sure that it's transparent. We need to find out, not saying that anything has been misused or misspent or misappropriated, but what we're saying is we just simply, there's some chunks of time where we just don't know. So if we can look back, I think, Jay, are we able to find the 2023 information on what funding came into Main Street as a whole?
Yeah.
From the different sources that we had coming in? And then, I don't know that we're asking for line item things, but we're asking for the bulk of, here are the projects that were funded with, you know, with that money in the event that those records weren't kept the way that we would prefer to keep them now.
Can do.
And then our review of the January, February, and March financials, is that something where we're comfortable approving the base financials that we have now with the caveat that we add to them after the meeting that Beth has with Jay and obtains that extra information that we want to see going forward? Or would we like to hold off on approving the January to March financials?
Take the December fund balance, and
Okay.
roll it, and then do the additions and subtractions to make sure it comes out to fund balance
Okay.
as reported.
Okay, so we'll wait, and Jay, if that's okay with you, we're gonna hold December to, we'll be able to do December to April. And we'll look at those again in May, when we have more information on them and we have the balance sheet. And same thing, we'll kind of do what we did with the last one. We approved the February 28th minutes, but what we'll do is we'll just hold off the financial piece of those minutes as a separate item.
Makes sense.
Monthly discussion, we're gonna jump, ahead of the operating procedures, we're gonna jump to the Main Street map first. So Mish just handed out the 2.0 version of our Main Street map. It has some of the changes that we've addressed before. It's got and again, what we're really trying to do is indicate businesses that are open on here, make sure that we've got the businesses that are currently conducting business listed so that people can find them off of Main Street. A big thing that we needed to talk about as far as this was concerned is what do we feel as a board is an appropriate schedule for if there are changes to be made to this map? In what timeframes do we feel like we should be looking at that? Do we feel like that needs to be an annual, a biannual, a quarterly? What do we think is appropriate? And I guess, Jay, my question to you would be, what are the costs affiliated with changes to that map and how easily are they done?
I think the changes are easily done. I think the cost depends on what it is, right? I think that changing the Simple Life's address from 25 to 27 is nothing. I think that if you wanted to expand it down to Dean's Automotive, that's a lot more.
And who makes the changes on it?
I email Angie, the graphic designer.
There are still some things that are out of place. Like the city hall parking lot is indicated as being city hall, not the parking lot itself. And the P for parking that is kind of floating behind city hall and the Simple Life and the Hair Barn should really be kind of at this Riffles Lane space because the parking lot is actually back there. I would be confused if I were driving up the street and I'd go right past Riffles Lane and, want to pull into the building.
That's the
We've
one on the-
installed bollards, so you can't do that anymore.
That's good. But the one next to it doesn't have any. So just kind of, and I understand that this is not, a GPS level map, but I think accuracy to the best that we can would be great.
And I know we brought up too, the Riffles Lane and Benner Lane came up before.
Yeah,
where
they
need to be across from each other.
Yeah, they're not.
I don't see that as a hard change in the event that the graphic designer is in there being able to shift it so they're across from each other like they are when somebody's driving down the street.
Just take out one of the gray buildings, no one's, that's like, if they're not active buildings, like
Yeah, if it's unoccupied, I don't see that it would mess up anything.
this stuff that's active be accurate, and then they can fill in with blocks of whatever beyond that,
Yep.
But I'd rather the true information be accurate.
Rhine Dollar is listed on this second one. We realized the other day, Stephanie got very creative in a hurry and was able to fix it before an event that she had to indicate that she was on Main Street. But people are looking at this map and they are using it. I know down at Deja Vu, they really are big cheerleaders of this thing. And I know their clientele really, really are using it.
Yep.
Middle Street does not go across. I don't know why that's there. Middle Street is not on the south side, or it dead ends at Baltimore Street.
There is an alleyway that's sort of staggered,
Oh, is there?
offset from it, and that's
Okay.
considered Middle Street extended.
Oh, I didn't know that, okay.
What-
Is it pertinent to this map, I guess would be my question, like, if that's something that's really accurate, is that a pertinent accuracy that we need to show?
Is Buddy's Place off of Middle Street?
It's on Middle Street, it faces Middle Street next to the post office. So the post office would be where the wording is.
If, I would suggest maybe leaving a little bit of that in the graphic designer's hands, that like if you want to shift with where Benner Lane is, that maybe if for space reasons or clarity, the designer thinks that, they can make up that space by changing the Middle Street extended piece. I don't know that either are particularly critical because there aren't any businesses located on, directly on Benner Lane or Middle Street extended. So, I don't know that either is really critical to the map other than maybe like a waypoint kind of reference.
Yeah, and the importance of Riffles Lane is the parking lot. That's
Yeah, oh yeah,
behind
definitely for
there.
Riffles. I was
Right, for
thinking, on
Riffles,
the Benner
so-
side, not so much.
right.
Is this the version of the map that got printed, hard copy print on your
The one you're looking at?
catalog or whatever it is that you guys advertised on?
It is not. The version that was in the Carol magazine
Carol magazine?
was an earlier version of this. And that had to do with their printing deadline.
Yeah, the new one has a couple, yeah, the new one's got a couple of additions to it. So we do, so what do we feel like on the timeline of this? Do we feel like quarterly?
Yeah, I think quarterly and then as needed.
And then, what deja vu is, there's vacant retail space down there. The town merchant or whatever it was, that they closed, they're not, that space isn't on here. There's another one down there that's empty, so it's actually missing buildings.
And that is true. So we, at our last meeting, when we looked at this at the last meeting in February, and some of those buildings are not listed on there just for space. So if you're walking down the
So
street,
now you have to add them in the lease, so then you have to find the space.
right, and that's our every 3 months. So quarterly, we'll be able to add in the new buildings, and they can modify it and add those spaces in. But this map fitting the way that it does, if you're walking down the street and you're at Deja Vu, you'll keep walking down the street to get to Rust. You won't, it's not like you're gonna think they're sitting right next to each other. It's just an indicator of what's next as you're going down Main Street. Because like I said, yeah.
As a tenant, I'm coming to lease space in Taneytown, and I pull this out, and I'm going, well, there is no space there. It's not, I mean, I say, well, what's going on? Where is that space? Is that not retail space?
You're talking about the blank ones or the ones that are
The ones
listed
that
with
have not
active?
even listed, they're missing it, but,
So how do we, is there a better
I mean, you
way?
put buildings on this block,
Right,
and you destroy this block.
do we feel like there's a better way to indicate that there's vacant spaces in town? Is there a way to indicate vacant spaces that are available?
It's almost like they've,
Okay.
and I get this graphically, that they've, that this little group of 6 buildings is here because they want to fit the QR code. And, refigure where that QR code's going to go and make this more accurate, and then drop your QR code in, because that's really from a graphic designer standpoint, I can see that thought process. You need that space, but create the accurate map first, and then figure out where to put your additional information, because it really is misleading. And I know Beth has said this before, where people came to Rust thinking it was Deja Vu because that's where it was on the map. And
I
they're
hate
not
to
looking at the
speculate.
sign, they're looking at where they're standing in relation to other things.
I hate to speculate, but I think that the buildings next to the QR code correspond with how many businesses there are across the street from them. So City Hall, Simple Life, Hair Barn, and 4 York Street needed to be accommodated, and so there are corresponding buildings on the other side, is what I think happened. And then the fire company and the 2 houses there, or whatever it is, take up less space, and so on the even side of the street, I think they kind of compacted that, is my speculation, but.
So are we okay if, I can nominate him because he's not here and it's his purview. But what if we have Keith Reed, see if he's comfortable actually walking Main Street and taking this map with him and making indicators of which buildings we've got and making sure that we have the right number of buildings in between? Because he's our economic vitality guy. So we look at it a lot and we talk about it, but I want to make sure these changes, since we feel strongly about them, that they're actually getting made.
I think we can move better than up to buy yourself some real estate here. But better than is where it belongs. Maybe they get a little bit smaller. And then you pick up a little bit of space anyway.
Okay, and this may actually save us a little bit of headache later, because in the event that new businesses are coming in, which is the goal,
Yeah.
we're gonna need those spaces on the map anyway, because hopefully they'll have names next to them for who's there.
I had a thought, but I'm not sure if this is appropriate for this particular map. When you said, is there a way to indicate, and Brandy, I mean you, is there a way to indicate businesses that are available for, would we want to do that on this map?
I wouldn't. Because I just tell people that we don't have tenants, we have a lot of vacancy.
Sure.
Okay, so
Yeah,
not,
that's
not
the point.
highlighting,
We're not
yeah, not
leaving.
You're sending
highlighting
the
it.
message that we're open for business, or we don't have any business.
True.
So,
True.
I mean, I think one of the easy things when you're talking about a map like this, I mean, people do have to, the public, anybody looking at this map, I mean, there's got to be a reasonable understanding that this isn't 100% accurate GPS location, but I think it would be helpful, like City Hall is a good you know, is a good indicator. You know, people can look at that, they know where City Hall is, and they can kind of see where they're at. If you're gonna leave the box for the fire department, just label it as the fire department, so people understand, you know, that landmark. The buildings that, you know, are primarily residential, I mean, I don't know that they even really need to be on a map like this, because if you're going from business to business, you're looking for the signs.
Right.
Okay? And each business will have a sign. So if you're walking up the street, you know, and you're at the police station and, okay, well, you know where Country Kitchen is, and, oh, there's the Deja, I mean, just going right up the street. If you take the buildings out that really aren't commercial in retail nature, then Jay or the graphic designer has plenty of room to use that space for other, whatever it is, whether it's a QR code or other kind of communication, you know. So, I mean, but as it is right now, I don't think it really needs to be altered that much. I mean, everybody who's open is on the list, and people, you know, do have to, I mean, they gotta kind of take a little accountability for the fact that they gotta look around them to see the sign.
Right, since we do have good signage.
Right. Now, the other thing that, and I guess this is really more along the lines of that certain businesses that are adjacent to downtown aren't actually in what is designated as the district, like Napa and A&W Meats. I mean, they're right on the crux. Even though they're technically, they're not part of that.
Nope,
how
let
do
me chime
we-
in real quickly.
All right.
There are 7 Main Street District businesses, including Napa and A&W, that are not listed. And either the mayor or I reached out to each of them to let them know that it was a space constraint and that we would work them in as, you know, however we're able to. So there are, you know, Tannery Barn, Dean's Automotive, Napa, Designer's Edge. So we have reached out to them to make sure that they're clear on where we were going, what our motivations were.
They were our 7 that aren't on Main Street, but we still want to include them into
They
it.
are on Main Street.
We just didn't
We
have space
didn't
to
put them on the
into
map,
this.
right.
Okay.
We also didn't want to necessarily encourage a lot of back and forth over the railroad tracks if there's gonna be a lot of families and children involved.
And that's the design place, right?
Okay.
Okay.
And then what's it cost to update this map every time we go to the
Depends on what the update is. I can ask her if she can just provide
Yep.
like
An
a,
average, an
this is
hourly,
to,
just something for her to give to us so that we have an idea. Because again, as we talk about budgets, I think that's an important piece of information, and whether or not we stay with the same designer moving forward in the future, whether that changes, whether, what we want to do there. All right, so you asked for rates on that. Those 7 businesses were reached out to. All right. And then, do we need to vote on the quarterly, it being a quarterly thing? That we're updating
think
it, or
so.
no?
I don't think so. You
Or
just-
maybe just we'll discuss the changes as we're doing them, and then make sure that it's something that needs done, or whether it can wait,
We need to review it and
depending on what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that one, my point there being just, what is our time frame? That way, if we have a new business opening or a business closing.
Right.
We know that within 90 days, that business is either removed from this map, or there's a business added to the map. That way, we have something to tell those businesses, because small businesses can't wait 6 months, 12 months to get themselves onto a map where other places are getting promoted.
is this also on the city map, on the city app as a digital?
I don't believe that it is, but we
That'd
can
be-
ask
we
if
do
there's
digital
a good
version of
way.
this
That's a good idea.
That could be maybe updated more readily.
On the Taneytown Connect, too.
Yeah, that's what they asked.
That's what you guys did,
Yeah.
good idea.
If there were changes that we're planning to make right away with it, we may want to wait until those changes are done.
Yes.
And then, you know, go ahead and share that. But typically, anything that we put out on one of the city's Facebook pages is also pushed through the app.
Okay,
But we can make sure that it does get linked once
right.
those updates are done.
great, thank you.
Okay, so Jay, you're gonna talk to the designer, you're gonna see if some of these changes can be made now. That way, then we can go forward to the Taneytown we can review them at our next meeting in May. And then hopefully if that gets approved, then we can get them onto the Taneytown Connect app. Great. All right, jumping forward to board operating procedures. My intent for this today is not to go through every single one, but everybody did give suggestions or recommended changes at our January meeting, I think.
So I took it, I did mine in handwriting, waiting for a meeting to happen.
Yep.
Or did I supply them?
No, but I love that. I was gonna say that
Yeah.
both times that Stephanie sent me them, I couldn't detect any changes.
And I asked her this morning to send over.
Like when
the
I open it-
changes She had made.
when
the
I
track
open it,
cha-
it
Yeah, the
just
track
is.
changes. So, Mark, I don't know. It may have been too late this morning that I responded back to her if she was in a meeting for her to get them to you to share with us.
Well, she has, so I don't know if she sent them to you guys, I don't know. This is what she's got.
Are the red, is the
With-
red on the side, the track changes?
That's,
Yeah,
the red is her comment.
Yes, that's what we needed, because
don't
that
have
was
access to
missing from the
those.
file. Yeah, from the file she sent us, that's exactly what we needed.
Are you able to just straight up give that to Brandy, Mark?
I probably can.
Okay.
So this is mine. I've been waiting for a meeting to present them, so I can make a photocopy or we can make a copy of these and I can give that to you or give you the original.
The easiest, I don't need the original. I would say the easiest way to do it is why don't we start with you and go over them? And then after the meeting, can you either email me a copy or we'll make a photocopy of it?
Yeah, I'll have to scan it and copy it because it's just all.
And that way, if everybody's got some similar ideas, I can put everybody's ideas into one cohesive one and make sure nothing's overlapping.
Yep.
And then we can look at those as a whole at the next meeting in May. All right, well, you got a lot. We'll let you start.
Okay, well, so questions that I have in general are, are these from a standard Main Street template? Or were these written exclusively for Taneytown Main Street?
Authored entirely by me, gone over by the manager and the attorney.
Okay.
For Main Street. Most Main Street boards are not set up like this, such that the board members are committee chairs. Most have a board that is just very high level policy sort of, and then committees. But because of our out of a concern for lack of volunteers, maybe, and to keep the board and the committees more in tune with one another rather than having the committees operating out in the ether without, a lot of board engagement. I structure this way, but there is nothing that requires that you be the promotions chair, other than these operating procedures, that Beth be the organization. We could have you all just be at-large board members and have committees set up completely separate from you with chair people. That was just not the way that I sort of, I envisioned the connectivity between the board and the committees being a lot different, or a lot more functional.
Yeah, that's good input, just good background to have. So a couple of things, talking about board term limits and term under second section D, members of the Main Street Advisory Board will be appointed by the mayor and city Taneytown and confirmed every terms of 4 years. And then it kind of goes through the rotation, but we all started at the same time. So I'm wondering how we're going to manage turnover when that 4-year term is up. And what the plan is, since we're not a rolling board yet, we are all,
That would be to fill the vacant seats when they come up, or that would be,
well, just,
is the question on how to fill them or when we're filling them?
The
process in general, just
The city code that created the board specified that the mayor was to identify, I think it was 3 seats to expire with the shorter term and 4 seats to go for the longer term. And I will,
And that was to prevent turnover all at the same time.
right.
That's the question about.
Yeah, it's built in, so city code built it in so that we didn't all turn over at the exact same time.
And that's something that, from the city perspective, we're kind of looking into right now. Well, it's not at the top of the list admittedly, but because it looks like when the formal appointments were made, there wasn't included in that motion and vote the description of the individual members' terms as to who was going to be,
Right.
you know, whose terms expired when, which I think was part of the original intent of the code. So it, you know, so much time lapsed, I guess, between the city council's adoption of the code and the former mayor's appointment of board members, that by the time the board members were appointed, that got overlooked as to like designated whose term ended when.
Right.
So we really need to sit down with the city attorney and say, well, here's what the code says, here's what happened when the former mayor appointed people. How do we, you know, how do we make sure that?
How do we figure out
that
everybody's
we're- that
current
we're, you
terms?
know, that we're administering things properly going forward?
Yeah, it was just a,
Yeah.
kind of a technicality I
Right.
found.
I mean, the intent was for it to be rotating terms, but, or staggered terms, rather.
Right.
So Jim, you'll be able to meet with the city and figure out what that is so that we have more, so everybody has concrete terms for our next.
Right, and I
next
think
one.
that the communication that was sent out to nominees, or appointees, rather, included a range for the term, or you know, a conclusion date for the term. And I don't know if those really matched what the code talks
didn't.
about for
They
the
didn't.
first,
were
right, the
different.
first appointment of the board.
Okay,
So we need to figure that out on the city side.
okay.
So I also, under J, at the top of page 2, in that same section, it says, "The Main Street Advisory Board shall approve the chairperson's quarterly reports." Not the city, not the manager, not the Main Street manager. So I just want to make sure that that happens next, you know, that if this gets approved, that, you know, that's what we're going to do. So just going forward.
And we did, and actually in the last meeting, in February's meeting, we did. So we made sure that we knew all the information that was going to be shared at the council meeting in March was brought up at that meeting in February. So it wasn't an outline, and it wasn't, and you're correct, it wasn't so much that we had prepared a quarterly report. That was our shortage as a board, that we hadn't made a report.
Right, so I'm just saying
Right,
this
making sure we
says,
have that.
shall approve your quarterly report. So that to me says we approve the report, not the stuff that goes into the report, because it's what we've all been talking about.
Yeah.
There's a very clear distinction there for me. Either we're going to do that, or we're going to change that language.
Right.
So that's another point. So there's that, and mind you, I wrote these notes about 6 months, you know, when we first got this, so going on, I don't even know how long it's been since we got this.
What else you got?
Let's see. So I asked in this, who is the city council member or staff member corresponding to the committee chairs, so that we have an idea, and I think we discussed that at a previous meeting.
And we have
To get that
those.
clarification.
Somebody presented them to us at one of our
Yes,
previous
so we
meetings.
did
We
get
have that
that.
now.
I have a lot of stuff. Just kind of,
Would you be more comfortable,
Yeah.
Sharon, if you went home and typed them up? And
it's just.
I don't
a
want you
lot
to
of-
feel,
I want to make sure there's time for discussion on
Yeah,
them
I'd
now,
rather,
Sure.
you know,
because
go
that's
ahead.
where we keep.
yep, nope, I just didn't want to make you feel like rushed and overlook something.
Right.
Yeah, this is just, it's a lot of information, and like I said, I wrote these a long time ago, so I had planned to do this in a different environment, as an actual strategic planning environment where we went through this as a singular thing, so.
Yeah, this is a hard piece. We've been working on this since we started. For everybody sitting here with us as we fight through this one, we've been trying to figure this out since we started as a committee or as a board. So this is a lot of the little nitty-gritty stuff that,
I really do think that this is better served as a different meeting. This is way too big an issue, and has way too many moving parts.
So is there
to
anything else
squeeze it
big on your
into-
list?
Well, things, the big one for me, I think, was finding out that the organization committee has control over Advise Main Street website, Facebook page, and any other social media accounts. The organization committee shall advise on branding and identity of Main Street Taneytown organization. That was a surprise to me under the organization committee and not promotions or kind of a higher level. That's one of the things. You know,
And that is C.
that is.
Nope, economic
under
vitality is
D, the
C, under
organization
D.
committee,
Yep, there we are.
Items 3 and 4. Just questioning why they were put there and not under promotions. A lot of underlines about fiscal stuff and just information.
I'm gonna have to agree with that one. Is our social presence better suited under promotions? What do you feel?
I know that in the real world, all that kind of IT stuff falls under the financial division of a corporation. It doesn't mean they do anything. You know, my vision was, okay, Facebook, how we get post out there? Let's document it and then share on those how to promote it. I'm not gonna be the one promoting.
I see it as
I am
advising, that you're
just I
advising.
am just the process and making sure the process works.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I read this as saying that your committee's advising
That's
how
why-
that works,
that's
not
why
how they're,
branding-
So maybe advisor to promotions
That's why
for social
branding-
media.
Yeah, I mean, like,
But there's nothing about social media and promotion.
And that's what I
under
was-
promotions.
right,
And
that's
then-
where I was
and then
going. I think it
add-
needs to be, Sharon.
And then we'll add social media under promotions.
And
Yeah.
branding and, and that, those are the
Okay.
the
Really
actual
important.
logistics of
Yeah.
it.
the
I
financial
think yours
piece
is.
is usually a gatekeeper.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And that's all, I mean, I don't wanna have to come up with a branding, I mean, I'm happy to be there and
Right.
weigh in, but
Yeah,
That's not
no,
my thing.
yeah, definitely. I would see where
Yep.
Okay.
the organization would still advise.
Yep.
And my only other really big issue or point on all of this would be under the Taneytown record section. I think I proposed some solutions to that, and that's section 8. And
Yeah.
really making this a little less specific about the Taneytown record and maybe more maybe at this point about a publication or publishing information for the community and not being so specific about the Taneytown record, because I did propose another option for that, and I know that there are other options being floated around that to move that away from the city/Main Street and maybe to move it more toward Main Street, but have a little more control over.
Is
what we're
Taneytown
publishing.
Records specifically a Main Street publication?
Would you like to, or would you like me to?
Supposed to, I can,
Supposed to be.
Yeah, like where's the money coming from? Where's it going to? Are there advertisements that are benefiting Main Street?
If you look at the financial stuff we got, it goes back to Main Street. Any money they receive from ads, like the CWM, it's not sure that's what it was, I had to dig and read descriptions.
right.
And then paying the bills came out of Main Street Fund.
Okay.
But some of the information that was passed on from Jim did have a really good, accurate, I guess it's under a donation, but it's really ad revenue, okay?
I think
And-
that's how it has to be for the fund. I
Right,
thought.
right, but again, it's coming into Main Street, okay? Main Street it's not a slush fund. The money's got to be accounted for, and it's got to go to something tangible. And so the Taneytown record, if it's going to be anything, if it's not going to be done by the city and budgeted by the city, and I know the city contributes to that, all right? If Main Street is going to be the conduit, then Main Street really ought to be they ought to be responsible for getting it done. I mean, it's not getting done, all right?
Have
And
we
so
ever-
we should, if we're going to do it, it should be done right under Main Street.
So we're looking more for also a calendar. In the event we're going to continue forward with that one for now, we need a calendar of when it's going to be published.
and how. And then I have a bunch of other comments around the previous section, Section 7, under the Main Street Manager.
Before we move
Checks
on
and
from the
balances.
Taneytown record discussion, just to point out, that's one thing that the city council who adopted what's in the code regarding the Main Street Board did include reference to the Taneytown record there as far as the board dictating or coming up with a publication schedule for it. So I know the council's intent, well, the former council, because it was a different group of people than we have now, their intent was that the Taneytown record continue and it be affiliated with Main Street. So there's been a lot of conversation since this was made part of the code
Right.
as to, do we want to continue the Taneytown record? Do we want to partner with another publisher? Do we want to do a magazine? Do we want to go back to doing a newsletter?
Do we do it
So there's been
digitally?
a lot of ideas thrown around, and in the meantime, unfortunately, we haven't been publishing anything.
Right.
And because we can't seem to come to consensus on what we want to do. So, but the way it's in the code right now, the intent at the time was that the Taneytown record would continue. So unless something dramatic happens in the foreseeable future, I'm going to be pushing to make that start up again. But again, the code does say that you guys determine a publication schedule.
So can we talk in May? Can we
Yes,
add this to our May
absolutely. And
calendar?
this is a really big
And make
issue.
that make that our monthly
Yeah.
discussion for
Yeah,
May?
I think that would be good.
And if the board feels differently about the record, then we'll need to go back to the council, about that,
Okay.
and
We can have a
and
good
say,
discussion
we'd like to
about
take that out of the
And
code,
can you dig out
as,
anything that you
so it won't
find
be
on
something
the
the board's responsible for.
financials of
I
Main
think it's
Street?
100% fine.
that-
I think,
of that
I think
Taneytown
what's
record.
unrealistic is to expect, I mean, Jay's got a regular job, okay? And it's really unfair to put that whole burden on one guy, okay? I mean, certainly he's the economic development director, so he's gonna be involved. All of the city council is gonna be involved, the agency or the department heads are gonna be involved. All that information can get out there. But you have a mechanism now to build committees or add to committees to get people who want to do this kind of thing that can help do the layout, help gather the information. And then if city council wants to, be they want to approve everything or whatever before it goes out, that's fine. All right, but it just has to get done. It's got to have a mechanism to get done.
All right, I'm going to shelve this until May. We'll go ahead and we'll move forward, and that'll be our monthly discussion for May.
My other issues are with the checks and balances in Section 7. There really aren't any, and talking about the Main Street Manager also being the secretary and treasurer, in some ways, the Economic Development Director also being the Main Street Manager. There's a lot of overlap and a lot of places where I feel that we can have some better use of skills and time to separate some of these positions out and have better checks and balances.
Okay, so we can review those checks and balances and see how they're written.
I will give you all my notes, and you'll have a full
I'll have a full night.
Full night of reading.
I'll have a full night.
Sorry.
I see the pen mark over there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Beth, do you have, what comments do you have on our
And yet,
operating procedures? Yep.
that's right now.
Okay.
I've been a little basic, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, and again, we're gonna talk about it again when we have our May meeting, so it's not like if we don't talk about it today, it's never happening. This is just our really good foot forward, that we're good at putting this off, and we shouldn't. Lauren, what do you have?
One of the things that I was wondering was the Taneytown record. And I was wondering if it should be a standalone section in this, or if it should be retitled and be a section, in other words, underneath publications. Because we're talking about all kinds of different publications since that conception, so.
Can we condense it down where it's listed and how it's?
Right, so my thought was like, so for 8, maybe it's gonna be publications, and then Taneytown record and whatever else we're considering falls under that.
Some type of publication. Yeah,
Right, just retitle that and fold that into additional things that we're looking at, because we do have the digital publications as well, so
really
things have changed a
streamline,
little.
yeah, really
Yep,
start streamlining what the message that we're putting out and the way that it's,
Right. and if you,
Right.
Go
And
back to
right.
my
And where it's
February
coming through.
report, it really outlines what we could
Right.
put, put out.
Yep.
So,
and then Keith is not here, and then Mark, can you go through Stephanie's notes on what, highlight some of the important pieces that she has on there?
Right on the first page, section 2, Main Street Advisory Board, purpose and membership. In A, she has highlighted walkable central business district. And her only question on this really was, this may need to be taken up with council, but Maryland Main Street uses the language comprehensive downtown revitalization program. That's a lot. To strengthen the economic potential of Maryland's traditional main streets and neighborhoods. And I think what she's alluding to here is that we too often overlook that our business district is every bit as much a residential neighborhood. So I think what she's really indicating there is, do we want to change the language to add neighborhood in there as Maryland Main Street does? I guess really to give more of a comprehensive overview for the public that this isn't just about business, but this is the neighborhood as a whole. I mean, I live in it. She lives in it.
Yeah, we do.
Lauren, you live in it too, you know.
Might as well live in it.
Jay, you live in it too. Jim, you live in it too. You know, so I mean, I guess she's just making the point that it's not just about business. It's a neighborhood thing. In B of the same section, Taneytown on City of Taneytown on progress made towards achieving its purpose. Her comment on this is, if the city code cannot be changed, then we need to explicitly state elsewhere that as a board, we are committed to the community within the business district as well. And again, that's just verbiage. And I'll give you this packet that you can look, you'll have it to look at, and Jay, you too, I guess.
Perfect.
Let me skip down to section 2H. A member of the Main Street Advisory Board may be removed by a majority vote of the city council. So her question on that is, why does the board itself have no say in this? And that is to say, if you wanted to get, if somebody needed to go, okay, why isn't there a mechanism for this body to do that and only the city council? Okay, it's just a question. All right, and I think you'll see the theme here is that a lot of this, and this is where it is the sketchiness of the model that we're in. We do understand that there's the necessary evil of this hybrid right now, okay? But there's so much overlap and in not just responsibilities, but the board itself is to do all this work, but it's not to have any say in how it is handled, okay? And that is to say, if we have to go to city council for everything that's going to transpire here, then, I mean, it's not really a functioning board, okay?
And we're still advisory, so we have to be careful, because a lot of our
But you're
decisions
not, you're not just advisory. You're asking people, we're building programming and we're asking people to volunteer their time, okay? That's not advisory, okay? That is action, okay? That is an active board. So I think what Stephanie's getting to with a lot of what is read on here, it's not the question of can we get it done, okay? It's the question of the language, so that we're moving towards that autonomy eventually and further away from this hybrid. Because as long as there is 100%, oversight from city council or even the mayor, then this board doesn't get to operate as efficiently as it's supposed to. Right? This is supposed to be like a fun thing for people to get involved in, okay? And once you get all this stuff hashed out, it will be more fun, all right? Somebody's got to break the seal.
Right.
But moving forward, if we adopt rules of operation
that are so strict to the top-down model, then you don't ever get to the autonomy. You understand?
Can this
And-
board ever function autonomously outside of the city?
Absolutely.
Or it's a function of the city? How's the code written?
the-
Because we're
the
written into code
program-
and we report to council.
Without a resolution, no, but with a resolution to break away, absolutely.
So,
And I'm not,
Hang on, I want to hear from Jim real quick on code.
so for the Maryland program, there needs to be an agreement executed with the city for us to be a Maryland Main Street. So the city will always be some level of a partner with the Main Street program. So you can't, the board can't break away completely from the city. You know, working towards more autonomy and independence from city control is certainly, you know, other main streets have done that successfully and spun off, you know, as their own organization, but it remains to be part of the Maryland Main Street program. It still remains like in partnership with that municipality or that neighborhood within Baltimore City. So, yeah, there's a degree to which you can become more independent, but it will never be completely a separate entity, you know, that won't be affiliated with the city somehow because it can't be part of the program otherwise.
right. And I don't think anybody is under the illusion that, you know, this organization is going to be 100% separate. But the operation of it can be. The way that the autonomy isn't about not having the partnership. I mean, it's crazy to think that, you know, you'd be doing that when you're trying to do the same thing, when you got the city and you got an organization trying to basically work on the same thing. What the theme is through all of this, and this really, it goes back to, you know, not just Main Street, but also City Council, how City Council has operated. There's a lot of programming that depends on, the execution of it depends on the approval of City Council or an appointment by the mayor or whatever, okay? And we are already months into programming that hasn't even been shared with the City Council.
Mark, I'm going to move us forward just a
Haven't
little
even been
bit
shared.
because we hear it. We hear what we're saying, and we are going to continue to talk about it as a board. But I am going to try to keep us to
Well,
more than an hour.
I mean, so I won't go through the rest of it. I'll let you guys read it, okay? There's a lot, okay? And you won't be sticking to a timeline if I go through everything. But as you know,
I want to make sure everybody has that today. That way we can all start looking at it. And I'm going to try to condense it into one cohesive document with tracked changes under each section. That way we can all look at it and see.
That would be great.
Yeah, that way we can really look at each section of what
like a
we
Google
have
Doc.
versus what
I'll
we,
give this to
yeah,
you.
what we have versus
as
what we want.
you know, my wife is very thorough.
She is.
And so there's really,
That's why when I asked her for it this morning.
right on there.
Trust me, she sent us the uncommented version. I was like, oh no. Because I knew there was a lot and I knew I wouldn't be able to find it all without missing it.
well,
So this is,
there you go. I mean,
Thank you.
I'm sure she has another comment.
Mark, you might want to let Stephanie know, at least for me, when I opened up the document that she sent, for some reason, reviewing the edits isn't available to me.
Okay,
so
it
I
might
can't
be the
see
way she sent
so
it
just
over then.
maybe the way it
Right,
came
mine didn't
through, or
seem-
maybe
yeah, mine
my,
didn't
Why
same.
Jay couldn't see it either.
yeah,
Okay.
it's, I don't know
Okay.
why it's not.
I'll
Letting me do
let
that.
her know that.
and tell her it's not, yeah, not a huge deal.
Because we
this
have to
one-
request access,
to
access.
Yeah,
it
I was gonna
looks
say,
like.
because this one I'm gonna put them together anyway. So I'll make sure everybody's edits are all in the same.
She'll probably want to send it to you again anyway, so that you have it.
Yeah, yeah.
Fine,
Okay.
that's fine. All right. Better than we've been on operating procedures. I think we're finally starting to break through some of that and figure out what it is we want and the questions we have and to solidify them. Committee reports. Design is still vacant. I know we discussed last time flower baskets. Jay, how are we on Catoctin Mountain Growers and baskets?
I have not heard back from Catoctin Mountain Growers. I just emailed them this morning as I sat down. So I will hopefully have an update quite soon about that.
Because I don't think we're behind schedule, but we should be getting close to where weather breaks enough to hang
In
baskets.
2022, we hung them on Memorial Day weekend, so
Okay,
we're not.
so we're fine. And promotions, Sharon?
So I handed everybody my report. My first point is to follow up on my February board report to find out if any of those budget requests or information in that report had been reviewed or commented on, because we haven't heard back on any of the budget items. And just curious what the timeline is for the Main Street Advisory Board's budget to be presented to the body to which it needs to be presented.
And we should have it, we weren't able to print it right before we came, but Jay, that's what you had printed.
You mean what you and I talked about me printing was the work plans.
But the work plan didn't have the budget on it that we had all,
Some people had more budgetary information than others on theirs.
okay. But that was at least our rough draft, I'd say then, of that. All right, so he sent it over to me. I'll be able to
That should
forward
be-
that to everybody as part of this.
Okay.
So that everybody has that initial work plan with the budget information we had, and then we can go forward and decide. We have until June, if I'm not mistaken, to approve that as a board.
Okay.
So at May, we'll look at it hard and make sure that we're not missing anything.
All right, well, that leads into my second point, which is the Taneytown Memorial Day Parade. One of my wonderful committee members has been working very hard on making some inquiries and finding out about what we can do to participate. I think as a board and as Main Street, we should be represented in the parade. That's at 1 o'clock on Monday, May 27th, and it's down at the lower end of Baltimore Street. What we're proposing is creating a float of sorts. We've been in touch with Tierra Blooms to purchase flowers from them at a discount that we would hand out to the people watching the parade on the sidelines. And we could either do this with walking with baskets of flowers, and members of the board, if we're, all together, we can hand out flowers. If we could get a flatbed trailer, say from the Hitchman, or somebody to donate one for the day, we could decorate it with flowers and we can sit on it and wave. Really kind of up to us as a group project to figure out what we would want to do with that. But we also have a tractor that Tierra Blooms will provide, and a driver, God, I hope. So my recommendation would be to do some kind of bannering, some kind of signage that says Taneytown Main Street, we're here and we're,
Yeah, because we
show
talked about
activity.
a banner anyway.
Yes.
For like when you look at the table for the
Right.
arts.
Right, whenever we
yep,
do
so
an
I think that's
event, whenever
important.
we're somewhere, we need to have printed and
Yep.
purchase a banner.
I would agree.
So we do need to discuss, one, are we doing this? We need to let the Parks and Rec Committee know that we want to have a space in there, and then how we're going to approach that. Additionally, there is a woman named Paige Etzler who has Clydesdale horses. She has a nonprofit, and these horses are also available to be in the parade. She's already, she's interested in being in the parade. This could be part of our Main Street entry, or we could encourage her to enter into the parade separately. But we do have an opportunity to work with her as well.
Where's her nonprofit at?
Paul, can you answer that?
I can't remember the name of the nonprofit. She'd like to promote that in conjunction with participating in the parade, but she's all for, promoting Taneytown, Main Street.
Do you know where,
whatever else.
she's in the Taneytown general area, correct?
Yes, she's,
Good Intentions Farm, is that the, yes.
Okay, thank you.
That was the question with the proximity to
Right.
Main Street, if it's a Main Street,
Yeah.
just how strict we're gonna be on Main Street versus not. I think it's an amazing idea.
Yeah.
I think it's something Taneytown typically wouldn't get to
talk
see.
to Lorraine, she's all for it. Whatever we can pull off, she's all go, and she can help coordinate the final details.
What do you guys think?
I think horses in a parade are awesome.
Awesome, yeah, me too.
I mean, kids love that stuff.
And floats are great, and people waving and smiling and having a good
Yeah.
time, and what could go wrong?
Especially the big ones, especially the Clydesdales.
Yeah, I think, Sharon, I think everybody's in agreement that if you want to talk to her and say
Okay,
we like it and support it.
Gentle giants, and she encourages children and families to come pet the horses, probably best at the end of the parade,
yes,
rather than during the parade, which we start.
yes. Yeah, so we need to kind of coordinate that, but if I have your approval to go forward.
And I think they are in touch with our Parks and Recreation Director, so I can just put a word in with her also to make sure that she's aware there's a Main Street component to Good Intentions Farms participation also.
Perfect. My third item, and this is really more of a board item, not a promotion-specific item. There is a grant called the Technical Assistance Grant from the Department of Housing and Community Development that can help pay for a downtown Taneytown revitalization plan from a revitalization consultant. That grant is called a TAG, short. It's due May 17th for use in fiscal year 2024-25. This is a crucial step for moving Taneytown from having potential to seeing action. So it is our view that in order to create a downtown that can attract new businesses, investors, and visitors, and support those that are already here, that we must resolve issues of building maintenance, zoning misuse, traffic safety, and historic preservation. A first step is to hire a consulting firm that is equipped to develop a plan of action to revitalize the Main Street area of Taneytown. With their help, we can create a vision, timeline, and preliminary design that can be taken to the community for comment. In order to do this, we need a grant to pay for some or all of this. The Promotions Committee recommends requesting the maximum of $50,000. In addition, the buy-in of this board and the Main Street manager are critical, which we already have. This needs to be a team effort. To that end, I want to point to my next point, which is point 4 of my report, which is Main Street Taneytown strategic planning. I'd like to propose a special session to bring the board members together to develop the mission, vision, value statement of the Main Street Taneytown Board so that we can move forward in the same direction toward a common goal. A meeting with a third-party facilitator that will guide the board through a series of questions and/or activities so that we can identify our path to success as a team. Bring the results of this to the Main Street Taneytown community for comment, buy-in, thus create a rallying point for a downtown revitalization project. And out of this, we hope to create some kind of tagline, some kind of, our value statement, and then that can go back into the bylaws and for that top of the bylaws, so that we are all part of writing that and can create that plan together.
So we would have, so the timeline on that looks like we have our bylaws we would be able to look at in May. And then we would be doing the TAG grant in between, which has that consultant, which part of that would identify that strategic plan and moving forward with the mission. I would assume it would move forward into that.
They're concurrent. They're not necessarily things that have to happen in conjunction. I think the strategic plan is about us as a board and creating where are we going collectively as a board with different members, different committees, but what is our common goal? We still have not defined that yet as a team. And I really find that until we do that, we will still struggle with running in different directions, trying to get to some place, but we really haven't defined what that place is. And we really do need to get that together so that we can work cohesively.
Right, and enhancing Main Street is our goal, right? That's our simple goal. But you're right, we're all getting there in a different way. So I want to be very careful if we meet and say, well, we all have to get there the exact same way.
No, but I think we all need to understand where each other is coming from and how each other is seeing that end goal and having those different perspectives. And by meeting and coming together and really understanding each other's work processes and other things about not just our goal for downtown, but our work patterns will really go a long way to help create a path that is much smoother and less rocky. That does not.
So I would like to
impact
see
what
what
goes in
you
the
think
grant.
that meeting looks like. I'd like to see a proposed agenda on it. That way we can all have a good feel for.
I can do that.
For what kind of meeting that is.
That would be great. I can absolutely lay that out, done those before.
Because I think it's a good idea. I want to know, I don't want us to get to that meeting and it feel like we're not getting forward because we don't have any good direction.
But back to the tag, the due date of May 17th, that is before our next meeting. So we need to come up with a way to review and approve the grant application by those board members who have more input into that. Or all the board members, really, we need to have a mechanism for reviewing that application and having input into that application so that we can be successful.
If this board is doing grants, what is the oversight right now required for grant writing or grant submission from the city?
I'm unclear on what you mean.
So,
What Sharon's asking for is that once the grant is written, that you get to edit it, right?
That we get to see it,
Yeah.
review it, make sure it has all the pieces in place, make sure everyone's, you know, the people who have actually made headway into this have input into it. I know Clean, Green, and Safe has had some, has moved forward in some of this. And that needs to be included in this grant to make sure that we've got everybody covered and that we're putting in the best possible application that we can.
who do you feel is involved in it? On this board, what specific people?
I think we are all involved
That's how you see it.
in it. This is way bigger, this is bigger than promotions. This really affects every.
My thought being, can our board approve that if we know there's specific people that are involved in it, that the writing of that grant and the submission of that grant can happen without every single one of us having to weigh in and oversee your grant process?
I think it's even just saying, we're gonna email this out and you're gonna make comment by X date. I mean, I think it's that simple.
That was my, that
but
was
I
my
wanna
question, to make
that we
sure we're not
have
acting
a
outside the
mechanism.
scope of the board, but we're making sure we're all on board.
Yes.
So as long as we've heard back from everybody,
You know, put a deadline.
what would you like your deadline to be?
Would you like me to, I can copy paste what the questions on the grant application are and just,
So I think the grant needs to be, you know, we need to write a draft, and then you.
Okay.
Because you're the Main Street manager.
you do want me to write the grant application?
Yes, so you
Okay.
write the draft, and then we will, you know.
And
with
then we
input,
can
and
all
if
look
you
at it.
Want to write that with input from board members that you feel would be best to provide you input, then invite them in to help with that input. I'm not trying to micromanage this particular process. It was supposed to be on the agenda as a higher level
Sure.
item, but I,
Look, Sharon, I was trying to keep
No,
them
no,
to
no, I
1
know,
hour
I know, and
meetings.
it's-
I
I'm not
knew.
saying that.
You
I'm
said
just-
it, and I was like, there went the hour.
I'm just, you know, I'm just like, I didn't want it to become a promotions.
Well, and you're right, it's time
Project,
sensitive. That
but
was
it
the,
is very
yeah,
time
this is the big thing, because this one falls on May 17th. We don't have a lot of choices but to figure it out. So Jay, if you write it, I would say to the board, is everybody here comfortable if he reaches out individually to the people where he feels he's in certain pieces of the grant? If he reaches out to us individually to pull that information from each one, and then we're all able to see it at a minimum by email to give written approval that each individual one of us, you know, is being heard and or agrees with what
And do we
they've-
want to put like a
what they've written.
timeline for that since we're?
If you have
Yes.
something that you feel should be in the draft, please forward it.
If you wouldn't mind, if you would send the questions to me, because, you know, I know in a very early meeting, I shared that I had been in contact with Dirk and Edson, and I think that some of the conversations that we had would help support writing that grant.
A suggestion, if the board feels that going forward, they want to approve any grant applications, just to avoid any open meetings violations or anything like that by having email discussion or debate that might rise to the level of a meeting, I would suggest that the board authorize Mish to make the application with, and that would be the motion and vote, would to authorize him to apply for this grant. But then operationally or procedurally, you can hash out, you know, the actual process you want to use, that he's going to do a draft, so, you know, circulate it for comments, you know, recirculate it before submission. But ultimately, you know, you need to have somebody who's authorized to apply. If you want to have that, you know, that control over, you know, what you do or don't apply for. So just to
I'm hearing
avoid any
that we do.
missteps.
So I'll make a motion that we apply for the TAG DHCD grant that is due by May 17, 2024.
Okay, so the motion is that we're applying for the TAG grant. Sharon has made that motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Stephanie has seconded. All in approval, aye? Aye. Nay? So moved. So the board has made a motion to apply for the TAG grant. Jay, it looks like our process at that point will be, Jim, I think you just nailed kind of what we were saying, which is,
I mean, how you guys discussed it is fine. You know,
right,
you
yeah,
don't-
that
you
there
don't
will be
need
a
to get
circulation
too
of it then.
specific.
Yeah, to reach out to everyone internally, to make sure you're getting the information you need to make the application for that grant. All right,
That's my,
good. All right, Beth, organization.
Okay, under my cash fundraising, I need to identify what events need volunteers and then go from there. I just can't go out and look for volunteers and not know what I'm looking for volunteers for. So as soon as I know, we can start, identifying who we're gonna approach for volunteers, whether it is community service hour volunteers or a higher level volunteer.
So Bethany sends you like things that each committee feels like volunteer support would be needed? Cool.
And we can do our best to try to find volunteers. And then can you send me the electronic volunteer log so I don't
Yep.
have to recreate it?
Yep,
And then if everybody sends it to me, I'll just update a master for everybody.
yeah, that would be awesome.
And that's, what we're talking about here is Lauren created a volunteer log by committee, actually by committee and by person on each committee. That way we can keep better track of it. I know we've been talking about it for a couple of meetings and you guys very well may have been starting this already. If you already have volunteer logs for each of your committees or you've got volunteer hours for the number of, you know, again, if you look at the number of volunteers you have versus the meetings that you've had together, send those hours over to Beth, if you don't mind, this month. That way she can start to keep a master log of the hours we have. Again, that one comes up very importantly when we're doing grants and receiving some of these state funds to show that we're putting in the legwork. Even though it's all volunteer legwork, it's legwork.
Do committee meetings count as volunteer hours?
They do. Yep. Are you getting paid? Yes, yes, they can.
And then I will help where I can if I'm raising, by identifying stakeholders, helping you identify grants. I'm not gonna sit there searching the internet all by myself, looking for grants for everybody. Because there's a lot of grants out there to be had, and I think there's some we should look at. Specifically, we had a comment a couple meetings ago about updating the historic facts. There's all kinds, I did go out and look, there's all kinds of grants for that. That kind of thing comes out of the time. We have no idea, but that's something maybe we need to look at as we beautify Main Street. I haven't had a chance to walk down the street and find all these signs, but
As a member of the Community Foundation of Carroll County, there is a grant program that is available at the Nonprofit Center. It's a very high-end grant search program that we have access to as Community Foundation members.
Okay.
So we can actually go in and put in different information and you know, it spits out what you might be eligible for.
okay, where was I? Okay, and then the promotion of Main Street to downtown interest in the public. I would like to identify and document the procedures and figure out who is posting on Facebook and Instagram and your website about our different things going on. I know we have an Instagram account, and I think Tony Fabric set it up.
Do you know her?
I gotta go find some information. Actually, Nancy McCormick is on my committee, and she knows it real well too, so we're gonna work on that one. And we'll get, if not, we're gonna make a new Instagram account and move forward, but we're not gonna say we can't do it because we can't get in. Okay. And then we need to monitor and assist in ensuring Main Street information is updated and posted timely. Anytime we have an event, it should be posted on social media as an event, more than 1 day before the event. I plan all my places I go off social media. There's magazines that come, they go right to the trash can because, and that's everybody I talk to. I mean, a lot of people read Carol magazine this time because I told them to look for the ad. And I got to say, why did you go away this time? I did see your ad. So,
Jim, how's the third-party social media in council?
So,
Did they
Well-
re-review that? Did they discuss it?
so we're discussing it now. It's something the city attorney and I are looking at, along with the folks who currently administer or manage the pages that we do have. So we don't have a formal policy yet, but it is in the works. We've basically gone out, looked at some other jurisdictions' policies to try to kind of pick and choose what we like from them, so we're not reinventing the wheel, but it's not finished yet.
And is that something that you think we can anticipate in May? I ask because
I think
along,
that's a little optimistic. That's not saying that we can't use the existing page to, you know, to keep promoting some things. But I don't know that the comprehensive policy is gonna be done by May.
okay. And then if not, Jay, do you have, if each committee is getting information over to you for certain events, you have the ability to put those up without that third-party policy being in place? All right, so a third-party policy by the city is gonna give us some of that autonomy we're talking about. It's gonna give our committees some of the ability to update those things on our own versus having to go through the city to do it in theory, depending on how that plays out. But for now, make sure any information that any of our committees have that needs to go out in a timely fashion, get over to Jay whenever it is you feel like that information needs to get out, and he'll make sure that that information gets out.
The second Saturday for May should be getting out soon.
These should all be Facebook events already.
Should
All
already,
of
should
them.
already go.
They should all be
And
created.
I
and-
agree.
And up and advertised. And I'd be happy to help with the, with the advertising,
Right.
marketing piece, to create a
Saturday
marketing plan.
events, and Jay, you're okay doing second Saturday event, events on Facebook now? Now, since we have all those dates, okay?
And the last piece of the finances, I have a lot of information to compile and look at and try to create some historical information so we have something to go on as we move into budget. It helps to see what happened in the past when you're looking to prepare for the future. And I'm gonna work with Jay on figuring out a reporting, our own report, because the city shouldn't just rely on CDA for the reporting. They should be able to reconcile it, and it's a real simple process. It will be in a Excel spreadsheet, take maybe 10 minutes a month.
Okay.
And then if we separate everything to roll forward, but I'll work with Jay on that too, because we're gonna meet.
Okay,
I think that was it.
thank you. Lauren?
So what I handed to you was just an overview of, that we went over at our last meeting with our core tenants, our committee objectives, when our dates are for meeting, because we've changed those to meet our committee's needs to Tuesdays. But the piece that I wanted to talk about was the timeline and the chart that's back there. We got that Pete entry in. But boy, next year we're gonna plan ahead, because it could have used a few more hands. But we did get it in, we did get all of our businesses represented, and so I think that was a really cool opportunity for us to put a little more into next time. We had our first, what I like to call our inaugural, our soft opening of Sidewalk Chalk on Saturday, the 9th, and I think it went pretty well. We had Beth Cheney come out and volunteer and help put the balloons out and put the markings and everything out in the spaces that were assigned. And we had families that were out there. I was in, at the end of the event, I was in there collecting the items and happened to be at Stonehouse Cakery, and a family came in with our little thing of chalk that had "Please return to the business," which was also written on the sidewalk. And I was like, oh, this is so wonderful. They followed directions. This is lovely. They came, they had fun, and then they followed directions. This is awesome. So I think that it went well. We had lots of people across the town drawing, and I know it was really, really people were having a lot of fun over at Laughing Coffin, because Chris had employees out and everything, so that was fun. And then we have the themes that are here. One of the things that I wanted to mention that I'm really excited about is when we were looking at our little free art galleries, and we're trying to figure out what that could look like. One of Amy Goodell's vendors that was actually out front on the sidewalk Saturday is a woodworker and also a teacher at Francis Scott Key. And he has offered to put together some quotes for us to build those. So that's an exciting upcoming thing. So that's where we are at the moment. We did approve our logo for the Art Lives Here to have that cling made. So we're looking towards having that made. But the additional footwork that needs to be done is to identify the businesses that are willing to and feel like they have the art to and the space to be able to allow the people to come in to see that and to view that and be a part of that. So, yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
In October, could you use, and I'm going by what Frederick says, they still have the October 1st Saturday, but then on Halloween that weekend, they do their sweet treats because it brings people into town. They have 2 opportunities in October. We're saying we're gonna go all one day and forget the rest of the month. If we split those out, you have 2, you have like your trick or treat.
Yes.
At the end of the month, instead of doing your sweet treat on your 12th.
Okay, that's,
2 opportunities. The idea is to bring people into town.
okay.
Right,
That's
we
a good,
also-
yeah, that's a great
We
suggestion.
need to coordinate that with the trunk or treat that Parks and Rec that the Taneytown Chamber does in coordination with Parks and Rec with the.
So I think what Beth is saying is that we should do street treat downtown. What Sharon is saying is they already do trunk or treat in the park.
So let's just look at how we can coordinate all of the
Or,
efforts.
yeah, there's 4 or 5 Halloween events
There were
that
5
happen.
last year.
There's one at Lorien, there's one at the liquor store, there's one at the park. We try to do, there's a couple daycares that do them on Main Street downtown. So, right, that's something that has never been overly coordinated in town.
Yeah.
I don't know if it can be. You're talking about very different entities, but I think it's a
Right,
good
at
idea to
least
try.
let's try to say, hey, let's be
Yeah.
partners in this.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Well, I
it's a
think
good
one of the
idea to
things we
try.
wanted to be able to do last year was even have, if nothing else, having each of those events listed out to be available to the public, whether it's on our site, all of those things so that people know where to go, when the fun's happening.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
love being the
Yeah,
idea of
and I
Main
think that's
Street
good.
being a clearinghouse for everything, for things that are happening all over town.
Right.
I think that's a really lovely.
That does sort of conflict with what Beth was saying, though, about the purpose being to bring people downtown. If we're publicizing things away from the businesses, then what does Rust benefit? What does
Right.
the $9 Couch House benefit? What does Bollinger?
In Frederick,
So,
we
and
do
that's
from 10
a
to
discussion for the
12.
board to have amongst itself.
Say it would be from the 26th in October.
Can I throw
That-
another?
We have people come in and say, oh, it's a neat store. I'm coming back, but I don't have your kids. And people came back. It gave us exposure.
Yes.
It brings people into your store. You might be handing out candy, but your parents come back later.
To shop, yep.
And that's what we
And
need
that's the
to
whole
do.
point. Yep, you're
And you
absolutely
make it
right.
like 10 to 2 in the morning. That doesn't usually interfere with any concert treats or anything, because they're in the evenings.
I think it's true.
I also
Stephanie?
just want to flag that October 12th is Color Fest. So Stonehouse will be closed, the Rhino Carriage House will be closed, because they, you know, for Stonehouse, they go to Color Fest. For us, there's
Right.
just no competing. I mean, you know,
Right,
we've
right,
tried
right.
it for 2 years. So just want to kind of flag that as a potential challenge for that.
A good point. Good point.
That is a good point.
Forgotten about that, thank you.
Yep.
But typically, Conference weekend is a good weekend for me, because I get them on the way home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we need to.
Okay, so we may need to reconfigure
Yep. What else?
some things. Yeah, that's it.
Good?
Yep.
All right. So Stephanie, before I give you clean, green, and safe, I have the funniest story I think I've ever had. I had to call Jay when it happened. So the gun store took place by accident in a clean, safe, and green activity that you didn't even know and we were not prepared for. We were in the store and we have a Roomba that vacuums the store. And we're talking the gun store on Main Street, okay? So the Roomba was doing its thing in the gun store and we had the door open because it was nice outside. And all of a sudden we didn't hear it. And we're like, oh no, where's the Roomba? So we got up to find it, and a customer came into the door from outside on the sidewalk, and he goes, "Hey, do you guys have a Roomba?" And we said, "We do." And we're like,
Did.
why are you asking us that? And so as we're looking for it, he points across the street over near the lot in the $9 carriage house. And he was like, "It's over there." And we're like, "Oh no." So it had gone out of the gun store, hung a right, swept up some of the sidewalk chalk that it apparently thought needed cleaned. It went down to the pizza store, hung a left onto the street where it stopped traffic in two directions. Thank God it didn't cause an accident, everybody stopped, but it stopped traffic in two directions where it swept its way across the street where it was cleaning parking spaces as its own special little initiative.
There you go.
So that's our fun business. Nobody ever says when you have a business that's something like that is gonna happen. So I'm happy to report the Roomba is safe, there were no accidents, and I feel like the town is cleaner for it.
That's hysterical.
So, on to you.
Apologies for not being here for the first half of the meeting. My company had, actually, since we've been talking about strategic planning, we had a strategic planning meeting this morning for my company, so that was a required meeting for me. I'm sorry I couldn't be here for the first half, but I will get caught up on everything that happened because I'm assuming that some of the things here will be answered because we had programming planned for the past 2 months that did not take place because at our last meeting, there was some clarification needed around what needed to happen in order to approve events. I left that meeting with the understanding that our plan had to go before council and be voted on. So we really weren't sure where things were standing. But we have everything in the pipeline, basically just ready to press play on. We've developed a complete social media campaign for crosswalk safety. So as soon as we get the green light to share that with the police department, they're ready to go. Safety walks are also ready, but again, pending approval. And I know we have the new form for requests so that we can get the flashlights that will go along with that event. We also, our committee is very excited to do a spring cleanup. It didn't happen on Earth Day, again, for that same reason. But Make America Beautiful, the Great American Cleanup actually extends all the way to the first day of summer. So we do still have time to participate in that event if we can get approval on both the event itself and budget and promotions. One question I did have in doing that work is, what is Main Street or Taneytown's current affiliation status with Keep America Beautiful? Because I was looking through the financial records, I don't see any indication of where we've paid dues for that affiliation. So we need to get some clarification on that, not only so that we can register our event and they can support us in, because they will support with publicity and they will register our event on their website where anyone can go and look, for the volunteer aspect. So there's a lot of resources that come along with being an official affiliate, as well as grant opportunities. So there's a grant opportunity that will open in the fall.
If we look at that in May, that's not too late?
Nope.
For the events we want to do. Can you bring costs, like what it's going to cost to be a member of that affiliate group and some of those benefits of it so that we can look at it in May as a discussion item?
So I would need to know some historic records on that because the way that Keep America Beautiful works, it's on a sliding scale. So I think, smaller communities, smaller organizations, because anyone can be an affiliate, any nonprofit, they cost less. On the website, I think it says something like $500 to $5,000. I mean, it's a really broad range that they give us. So I would be interested in knowing, because my understanding from what's drafted in the bylaws is that we had previously been an affiliate. So I would need to know what we paid previously and if we want to try and negotiate that with them.
So that you're aware, under the Hogan administration, the Department of Housing and Community Development decided that every Main Street was going to become a Keep America Beautiful affiliate. And the Main Street, or DHCD, I should say, paid the registration fees for all of us. Under the Moore administration, they have decided that is not a priority at the departmental level. So we have never paid our own dues to them, nor have they sent us dues, although they have apparently to some other main streets.
Do you have a sense of what other main streets are paying?
$1,000 is what they said in the email. Somebody emailed all of us and said, "Did you get a renewal form bill for $1,000?" And other people were like, "No," and some other people were like,
Share
"Yes."
any of those emails with Stephanie.
I'll see if I can find them.
Yeah, that way she's got some
Yeah,
background
that way I've
on
got
that,
some,
so we
I
can
know
look
who to
at doing it.
contact and, yeah.
We're listed as an affiliate.
We are
Looking
now.
at- Yeah, yeah. Keep Taneytown beautiful.
Where?
I just looked up affiliates and then it said keep.
Oh, it's right under Keep America Beautiful.
Yep, and
Yeah.
I scrolled down to find our state and it says Taneytown. Keep Taneytown beautiful.
Because
Well, there's good news and
looked
bad
for
news.
that.
Good
Yeah.
good news, that means we're in there as an affiliate.
Right, because it
Bad
would not
news
let
is
me
we have-
register an event.
Bad news is we don't know how we got there or when it ends or how
Yeah.
much it costs.
Right.
Yeah, because I tried to
Yeah, no.
register as
Well,
us and
yeah.
it wouldn't allow me.
No, I just pulled it up and I was like, I didn't see it at first and thought, oh, wow, gosh,
They
that's a
have to go
shame.
through whoever their lead contact is to
Yeah.
register to post anything.
Yeah. So there you go.
We're just to find out how we're on there, when we're there.
And if
Email
we
address
really
is attached to that
didn't pay a
account.
bill.
Yeah, well, yeah, and maybe that,
Yes,
there,
maybe.
it might be
It's an
something
old
on the,
one.
because we even have one of our committee members call them. So there's definitely some confusion about our affiliate
Well, we're on
status.
their website. I don't know. That's all I
That's a
got.
starting point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so maybe with your committee, maybe see if somebody will do a little bit of legwork and find out how we're on there, when they put us on there.
Yeah.
What we need to do to stay on there.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is that there is a Keep Maryland Beautiful grant, community stewardship grant that will also come open in the fall. So we want to make sure we have our ducks in a row to be able to apply for that as well. But I guess the big question is, can we go ahead with the crosswalk safety campaign? Like, can we go ahead with planning our first event? Or does that still need to go to council and be voted on?
That was just, Jim and Jay, I'm gonna let you weigh in on this one a little bit, because how did we have it listed when we do because our official approval for our budget isn't gonna happen
Right.
yet, especially with the new attorney or with the attorney coming back into the fold. Are these events that we're able to, as a board, agree, how do we agree as a board that we can do these events without it having to go before council first?
I don't think Main Street needs to delay activities that you're planning pending mayor and council approval. I don't think that's the way anybody is envisioning this to function. Now, I know in the draft bylaws, there's talk of the mayor and council approving the budget or having, I guess, maybe having the opportunity to comment on it, and if they don't, it's approved, and maybe that was a couple drafts ago, I'm not sure, because they have changed over the last year or so. But, yeah, I don't see the mayor and council like approving the nitty-gritty of what Main Street is doing. So
Okay,
I'm glad,
I
I'm
would
glad we
say,
have
I
it on
would
the
say,
record, because I
activities-
was
yeah, the activities-
explicitly
Say-
told in the
Yeah.
last meeting that my entire plan had to go to vote. So as long as we're all on the same page and it's on record.
Ma'am, we're working out the kinks.
I think it's important to point out that what's going before council is for fiscal year 24-25, and we're operating in the current months, which is
Right.
really fiscal year 23-24. So we're kind of we're not talking about apples and apples. You know, what some of us have proposed to do now is not what's going to be going before council to be approved anyway, because that's not in this, that's for the future fiscal year. We're talking about what
I
we're
see what you're
doing
saying,
now.
because they're approving the budget for next year.
Correct.
Versus
So
where we're at right
what we've
now.
been kind of holding is not in that budget anyway, because it would have already happened.
Yeah, we're kind of
So
swimming
we
through this
need
piece.
to figure out, can we just go ahead and do some stuff now? And then what is planned for the future,
Right.
for 24-25, is going to be budgeted, approved,
Budgeted
et
and
cetera.
approved. So it sounds like Jim is telling us yes, so what we need to know, so we have two things we're looking at, right? We're doing the collaborative with the police department for the safety with the flashlights. And what was the second one was the cleanup for Make America Beautiful. What do those two events cost in the term of where your budget items were?
Yep,
Main Street.
so, looking back at the action plan that I had previously shared, so we estimated $100 for the keychain lights. We would need to know if we can use Taneytown Main Street logo on that. And then there's no cost to the social media campaigns.
I make a motion to approve Clean, Green, and Safe's fiscal year 23-24 plans to move forward.
Well, I make the motion, but I'm gonna make the motion that we approve these two events.
Okay.
Since they're the two that we're talking about and we're
That's fine,
doing, and
however
we'll
you
just,
want.
we'll just keep
That
moving
did not
forward
include
that
any
way.
beautification days.
So
that was just the-
And your beautification days, what's the expense for those?
So we were looking at, depending on how much we wanted to do, you know, if we wanted to plant a tree, that would be approximately $50. We need $20 for soil, $55 for trash bags, $15 for disposable gloves, and we would like to offer incentives just as Parks and Rec did with having the free hot dogs at the end of their event, so we're estimating $150 for that.
Let me back up for just 1 minute, I'm sorry. So the keychain lights and the social media are all part of the crosswalk plan, right?
Well, the
Where's the
safety
others?
walks are a little separate, right?
Wait,
But
separate from
both
what?
in partnership with the police department, if you wanted to group
So the
them.
safety walks were with the keychains,
Yes,
okay, in conjunction with the police department.
right.
Got it. And the Main Street logo. And then beautification, so the keychains were, you said, hang on, I'm trying to get everybody a whole dollar figure here. All right, would you tell me the keychains were, Stephanie?
100?
100 in beautification, give or take $150.
$290 for a beautification day.
290 for beautification, that's one beautification
talking
day or the
$390 in total.
multiples? That was one beautification day or it was the multiple days?
That's one.
And then the Make America Beautiful?
That would be that event.
That is that one. Okay, so we're looking at $390 total for you to be able to proceed with all, you know.
With those three
With those
initiatives.
three events.
Yes.
So can you, for beautification day, you're talking about planting trees.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you talking about planting trees at?
Well, we would need to work in collaboration with the city on that. so-
Okay.
But we haven't gotten that far because we haven't. had
Okay.
a-
So this would be with us budgeting, us
Okay.
approving that these things can now take place. And in the event you guys can figure that out as a committee.
Exactly. And it-
This
so- and
board
it-
is okay with those taking places.
You know, this would be our, you know, this is kind of what we're estimating as our top cost. If we come back and find out, you know, it's too late in the spring to really plant a tree. Or we're not gonna be able to get that done in time, it's not gonna be successful, we would take that $50 off.
Sure.
So these three things. So the motion is to move forward with a $400 budget for the Clean, Green, and Safe Committee for the collaboration of these three events so that they are able to move forward with the beautification events in conjunction with Make America Beautiful and the safety walks and the keychains using the Main Street logo in conjunction with the police department on the back end. Yes? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
All right. Sharon has motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Beth. All right, all in favor, aye? Aye. Nay? None? So moved. Stephanie, we are no longer holding back your committee. You can move forward with events and do good things. Thank
you very much.
Whew. Look, guys, we're figuring it out. This committee stuff's for the birds. All right, anything else on Clean, Green, and Safe?
That's all.
Nope. Okay. Main Street Managers Report.
Sorry, because Arts and Entertainment was listed next on the schedule, I was momentarily taken aback. When it comes to the treasurer, the balance as of today at the Community Foundation is $9,164.49. Last time we met in February, the balance was $9,824.79. That is a difference of $660.29. All but, all of it was Bank of America. So some of that is represented on the document that you got listed on March financial statement. And the rest of it is on an April statement that I will have for you at the May meeting. just got back from the Maryland Economic Development Association Annual Conference. Spent a tremendous amount of time with the Main Street Maryland staff from the Department of Housing and Community Development, as well as with the other Main Street managers. It was a good time with lots of ideas exchanged. Main Street Maryland training, I think that I distributed this to you via email, but August 29th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. is a Main Street Board training that is virtual. So I hope that you will be able to make it and that this is enough notice. Again, that is August 29th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. virtual Main Street Board training.
How do we get to where we need to go to get to that meeting?
As soon as I have it, I will let you have it.
Okay.
I assume that they haven't made like the Zoom event or whatever yet. I will warn you that the state of Maryland uses Google Meets for everything. So it won't in fact be a Zoom, it'll be a Google Meets. You have in front of you 2 copies of the action request form. The idea is that if you need something like a parking lot closed, or flags, or flower baskets hung, or balloons purchased, that you will fill this out. It's what I handed you at the beginning, sorry. There was a map, and then it should have been 2 copies of the action request form. And I can email them to you as well.
Say like, Stephanie, anything that you need for your events coming up? Just fill out one for each of them, and then we'll have a record of what it was. We've pre-approved them, but that way.
Yep. And that way all the stuff gets done.
This by email would be great, that way we just have infinite
Yep.
copies. That'd be great. Thank you.
Look, guys, we're really excited about this. I didn't want to jump
We'd
the
print
gun and
2
give it
copies
out.
for each.
I did ask him to, I was like.
2
give
copies for
everybody
each
2
person.
copies.
This is great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was over here trying to figure out what was different about them and why. I thought we were approving them or something.
Oh,
Because I was like, why do I
No,
have
that
2?
one's just, no,
It's an
that one's
extra.
just. Perfect.
Add
Yeah,
to
that one's just
request
an extra.
Thank you, thank you.
Yep.
you're
just
like,
gives
we
us a
need
way
more
to-
sidewalk chalk. Fill this out. That way.
are.
And I think that it asks you to attach extra pages for like specific things. So if there is like a particular brand of trash bag that you want, you know what I mean? Something like that. Feel free to insert a screen clip from Amazon or whatever. The more information, the better, because obviously there are 45 different sizes of trash bags and they come in a myriad of different counts and so on and so forth. And I think that that's what I have.
Okay. And then other business, we had talked about a special meeting with Main Street Maryland staff.
Is a virtual with them on the screen in front of you acceptable? That makes it much more convenient for them than them having to drive from Lanham, Maryland here.
Everybody okay with virtual as long
But
as
if
we
you
can
want-
coordinate? Yeah, all right, so we'll let you coordinate a date for that one and get everybody on board. All right, the request to the mayor and council to amend the code regarding committee meetings being open to the public. Jim, that was moved forward.
Right, that's something council wanted legal review on, and
That's right.
that's on the list.
They have it, are they actively reviewing that one? Is that something Jay is?
They
Looking at for us.
authorized, they agreed to consider it and wanted to get the legal perspective on
Okay.
those meetings not being open to the public.
And then, last thing I have is our review of our upcoming minutes, or our upcoming meeting dates, rather. We had May 29th, 2024. Who was it? Somebody told me that falls
It's-
into the holiday.
It's the day after, or 2 days after Memorial Day. I just want to make sure that we would have a quorum, that people aren't
Aren't out of
vacationing or
town,
anything.
or, right, are we still okay with May 29th, or do we want to move May 29th? That's fine. Still all right? Okay, so our next dates will be May 29th, June 26th, and July 31st. And then we go into public comments. Anybody that's here, we talk a lot, we've done a lot. Does anybody else have anything to say?
I will try to be as brief since
I
you've
am-
overrun your
I am gonna lock
intended
you down
1
to 2
hour.
minutes.
No, well, you can't do that. Got to give me a little bit more.
I am gonna lock you down to 2 minutes.
Well, I got 4 things I want to cover real quick.
So go.
Okay.
Okay, Paul
You're up.
Cluth, resident of Taneytown and a business owner in Main Street. So beginning April 1st, and I alluded to this in the February meeting, T-Mobile is accepting their next round of $50,000 grant applications under their Main Street program. This is huge to reach some of your budget goals that everybody's talking about. Go to their website, check it out. I am willing to volunteer my time if the city's resources are constrained to do a major application like this. I would be willing to volunteer and help, or even do the first draft of it for others' approval. I think this is so important for the goals that everybody's trying to achieve. Mish, I did want to request on behalf of the Heritage Museum, so for the Vroom Vroom Second Saturday program in August, could that be switched to June the 8th? June 8th is their Hudson Day program, and there's another vintage car event going on at the same time. So the synergy between all that would be really great. And I've also know that the owner of Deja Vu Jewels and her father, who's connected with vintage cars and shows, they're willing to provide cars for the event as well. So it could be really cool. So anyway, just that's a request, if that could be possibly switched.
You wanna move that one to June 8th?
June the 8th from the August 10th, I think is what was the original proposed car show event for Second Saturday.
I think that's a great idea.
All right. I've got a quick question. How is, this is another topic, how is the new great-looking website for the Main Street coming along?
Keeps on keeping on. I trust me when I say that nobody wants it to be published more than I do.
What is the deadline to the, who is building it and what is the deadline for that project?
Cone Creative is building it.
Okay. Do they have a deadline or do they have they given you a timeline?
It is back and forth between they and I, as in they requesting information and me supplying it to them as I can. So
I
it's not-
understand that.
oh.
I understand how websites
Oh,
get built.
yeah.
I'm asking, has there been a timeline created and do we have an expectation
No.
of what our goal date is?
No.
Does it,
And can we get one?
can we create that?
Sure, what would you like it to
then?
be?
That's what we're asking.
Well,
So
where-
that
where are
timeline
they
is
in the
what you
process?
guys, yeah, where you guys are and what's left to be built.
They need descriptions from me for about a third of the businesses on Main Street. They need a 6-line blurb of SEO targeted language. When you click on the about at the top, it doesn't take you to the about page right now, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a final thing that you put together. So I'm not sure. I don't know how to describe to you where they are without knowing how to build websites.
Is there a way, can we, the businesses that you still are waiting, that you still need to put together information for, can those businesses actually give you that information that they want to have on this website? Because I would much rather give you my business information than have somebody else rewrite it, or take something off my website that maybe I was planning on rewriting anyway. That seems like a much better way to get that information together, and there's however many businesses doing that work for you instead of you doing that work for however many businesses.
My experience has been that businesses often aren't responsive enough with things like that. And so I suppose,
So a deadline?
Right.
If you don't have it in by this date, I'm writing it for you. But give us an opportunity to do that for
Well,
you.
then let's put this into our May discussion, because we're cutting into public comments. So let's put it into our May discussion, that way we can.
idea.
It's okay with
That way we
me.
can
Your
do
time,
it.
it's
It's
fine.
okay with me.
Yep, we are. All right, go ahead,
that's
Paul.
what I'm
All
hoping to
right,
do
you
is
got
stimulate
your-
conversation. One
you got
more
your-
thing.
You got your extra minute.
Okay, I'll try to get this in. Now, here's a serious comment for your serious consideration. I am trying to inspire everybody that's involved with Main Street. You know, this is so important for our downtown. So please consider this. What are the barriers? and I'm going to emphasize barriers for Main Street to begin thriving again like it did in the past. A thriving Main Street is so important for all businesses and economic activity in Taneytown. Now, I know that's a given, but it doesn't hurt to emphasize it. Those barriers, as identified, are what the advisory board should be focused on, in addition to all the activities and all the administration that you have to deal with to attract visitors to the city. Don't we, the citizens of Taneytown, want our Main Street community to be a model example here in Maryland, obviously for the size and scope of our city, and a downtown that we can all be proud of? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
How's it going? Chris Miller, Taneytown. Just for your consideration for May, if you guys could keep in mind, what would you like to see out of the Taneytown record? What would each one of you like to see out of it? Because we have worked on some reformatting and everything like that as far as the record goes, and I know we're still in debate of what the future of the record is. But while Jim's trying to work on the republication of it, one of the biggest things is, we need a schedule set by the Main Street Committee, and I'd like to see what you guys want to see out of it so that we know what we should be putting in it. Especially since it is more Main Street oriented. We're trying to serve all the information in Taneytown, but again, what would you guys like to see out of it? And if you could, just brainstorm that for May and, get it back our way so we can actually get that incorporated into the paper and hopefully get it back out again. So, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Can I swing back around and add something to our May agenda? Stephanie had brought it up, and I think we didn't touch on it today, but talking about how we wanted to handle future meetings, like with, I don't know, and I'm trying to think of how you
A
termed
vice
it.
chair? Is that what
In
you're
the,
thinking?
in the absence of the
Yeah.
chair.
Yeah,
So we did, and I had put it on my list and still forgot.
yeah.
So I had asked both Jim and Jay if they would step up into that position in my absence last month, and they weren't comfortable doing
Yeah.
that at the time because of the way that, we have structured. But yes, let's talk about that in May. That way we have a concrete plan as a board.
Yep.
And actually, that's something I would like to see added into our procedures too.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
way, there's never a board at any time
Yes.
that is missing that part of the process going forward. But that was the intention, that you guys would still be able to meet in the absence of a chair. So I apologize that life did not work, but we're gonna try to figure that out going forward.
Yeah, it's just, I realized we hadn't talked
No,
about that.
I'm glad you brought it back
remembering
up.
that.
Yep, glad you brought it back up. All right.
May I also have just one other thing? I would encourage us not to do a 2-minute rule on community members who are coming to speak. City council doesn't even enforce a time limit on public comment, and I think as a citizen board and not even an elected board, I think it's especially important in terms of our relationship with constituents to not do that.
So we can go back, this board has already, we voted months and months and months and months and months ago that we were okay with a 2-minute time cap on public comment. As a board, we actually had voted on that. I can go back and pull the minutes from it and try to find them for everybody, but it was one of our very first meetings that we did. Ours being that this is a 1-hour board, so we are intended to be from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We are epically not great at sticking to it, even though we try, but we are running businesses and we are doing other things. So we're either gonna need to start earlier in the day, or we're gonna need to really try to cap ourselves at 40 minutes to give ourselves time for public comment that may or may not run over 2 minutes.
No, I'm very much aware. I miss work for this meeting.
I did-
every
I am too.
Wednesday. Yeah, I don't work
I
for
am too.
myself.
Yeah, so as
so
of,
I don't
as
have
of
that
right now,
flexibility.
right, as
So,
of right
but
now, I would
I'm
tell
willing
you,
to
right.
I would be willing to commit missing time from my not working for myself job in order to better hear constituents. So I would
And
encourage
I
us to
don't
revote on
disagree,
that.
right, I don't disagree with you, but that is something our board has already gone over and voted on. So we can go back and we can do a revote on it, and we can revisit it, but everybody's gotta be on board, and that's something that we can talk about in May.
I also think we need to be more flexible on special sessions, because I think
Absolutely. 'Cause
stuff
that's the only
like-
way we're
there
going
is
to get
stuff
anything
that
done in an hour.
takes too much time.
Yeah.
And I think you need to take the time it takes to get the work done
Yes.
and be less worried about the time limit. because I'd rather get the work done and make this matter than stick to an hour and leave things out and rush through stuff that's really too important.
Sections. And we can talk too, because some of this is committees coming together and your committee really constructing briefly for the board the information that needs to be brought through the board. I feel like a lot of times you bring me everything that your committee's doing, and you're not just bringing the board the bullet points that the board needs to have weigh in on. So the board doesn't always need to be 100%. We need to be aware of what is happening, but we don't need to be involved in the ins and outs of your committees.
Our committee reports
is
take the
where-
least amount of time.
They don't.
This
They
is where strategic
definitely,
planning will help
they
iron that
definitely
out.
do not, but correct. I think at some point we'll be moving forward.
If I can have my 2 minutes.
Yep, come on up.
All of this is finally, Mark Stevenson, 9 York Street, Taneytown. Everything that's happening right now is gonna take more time because this has not been done in a very long time. And there's a lot to iron out, okay? The structure, okay, it definitely can be worked, okay? The problem that we have is that nobody's clear on what the hierarchy of how things get done. The police department's afraid to engage because city council hasn't approved it. We can't talk to DPW about trees and other things because it hasn't been approved. So what I would encourage you guys to do when you go over these operating procedures, okay? And Stephanie, they made me give them your thing. They couldn't read the file that you sent. They couldn't read your comments. Got it. Make sure that you spend the time on that to make sure that you're moving in a way that you want to move. All this becomes easier. It runs more smoothly, okay? If it's very clear that, Brandy, you can go talk to this person, or Stephanie can go talk to the police chief to do this, or whatever, and it can move freely without all this pigeonholing of, this guy's got to know this before we can approve to do this, and there's no synergy in any of that. But all of this gets better, and maybe you can get to a 1-hour meeting, and the committees can just give their bullet points, and they can the volunteers want to be a part of it, okay? Stephanie's committee's getting people all the time, but I tell you what they're afraid of. They're afraid of more of the same. The efforts that have been done in the past, the starts, the stops, this is questionable, we haven't done this right, whatever. Let's just get it done right the first time. Let's just get it done right. And that takes more time and it's harder to do. So there's gonna be this kind of conflict. There's gonna be more involved conversation, but that's what has to happen to be able to get to the smooth sailing. And I think it's going great. I really do. There is movement and people are paying attention to what's going on. And the better the more well-oiled it operates, the more people want to be a part of it. Right now, I mean, we've only been here 3 years, and we already know that people are very skeptical about, getting involved in things because, it happened before, it didn't work. Let's give them something that's actually going to work. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't even have to be really always pretty. But if it's effective, then you're doing something. Okay, I'm over 2 minutes.
You're not,
I'm
you're
out.
right there. I was watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn the meeting for today.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay? So adjourned.
Does anybody see Peace?